Say after me. Harmicuticals. Correct? We're saying it, harmicuticals. Right, okay. So let's look up, I'll give you a reference to Rockefeller, Rothschild. You can find them on Facebook. The richest dictatorship of families ever that existed. Very, very minted. That much that they have a lot of say to do with pharmaceuticals and money. It's an industry. It's all about dosh. People take their pills. I can't speak for everyone. Obviously, if you're on heart pills or major pills for certain things, by God, you must take them if they're a serious physical ailment. But there is a bit of an issue with the mental health area of things. The thing is, we have the pharmaceuticals inflicting and forcing certain medications on their patients. One of them being diazepam, for instance, which is a highly, highly addictive drug. So once you're on it as a tranquilizer for whatever reason you might be taking it, there's no coming off it because the doctors have a permitted amount of time, as far as I'm aware, to prescribe these diazepam. But the thing is, I've noticed there's been a lot of people on them for a long, long time, maybe years, that they're that addictive that they have to keep popping the pills more and more because that's how the pharmaceuticals get you hooked. It's about that stuff in the corner called money. Now, I don't know if it's a Rothschild, they're to do with one thing that's very naughty, and then you got the Rockefeller. One of them is well in, hands in, and bloody hands at that, true context of the word, so it's not actually swearing, bloody hands into the pharmaceuticals. And if YouTube tries to bar this for using the word bloody, if they might look up, it's the true context of the word, and I will explain why. There is many people in the mental health industry as medication slaves. I am one of them too. We have to take our meds because if we don't, we are summoned when we're under a community sectioning straight to the hospital. Do not pass go and do not collect £200 for refusing to comply, which means your human rights are not there and you've actually breached the compliance of I must take my drugs or I'm in trouble with, I won't call them NHS, I'll call them authorities. Now the thing is, I'm being prescribed medications for being a dangerous woman purely because they've edited my records and tried to make it look like that, which means the doctors have an oath of duty towards their patients. But the problem is with mine, I don't mean my present doctor, he's caught between a rock and a hard place. My previous doctors have messed my records that much, and it's actually called fraud. It's also called abusing their positions, and it's also called abusing their positions, fraud, and breaching the doctor's oath. Now, every doctor has an oath where they swear to do no harm. But the problem is the pharmaceutical industry, when they promote certain drugs to a patient, or should I say force them to take, they have a promotional bonus of so much for prescribing certain drugs. Now, some of these drugs are so harmful that people commit suicide on them. That's how harmful they can be because they create anxiety attacks. The patient thinks it's because of a condition they have, when the reality is it's the medication causing the anxiety attacks. And I don't say this with scientific backup. Without it, I don't say it without scientific backup. There is also omega-3s found in mackerel and haddock. No, mackerel and sardines, excuse me. And these are omega-3s, which is a supplement that a brain can be denied, something the brain so needs. And if the brain's denied that, you can get very, very mentally ill. And it's called omega-3s, fish oils in mackerel and sardines. That easy. There's also a thing called music therapy. Whatever type of music you're into can be good therapy for the mentally ill. But I will quote this. If anyone knows anyone in a mental health ward, we call it mental health ward, but it's a mental torture ward. 1, look for a music stereo system. 2, ask the nurses or look for evidence that hi-fi or stereo system is ever switched on in there. And I guarantee you now that stereo system does not work because the doctors deny the patients the very thing they need as therapy, and that is music on the ward. Point 1. Point 2, ask yourself if there's any pinnings going on there, or if there's any body charts, or of people getting bruisings and damagings in there. And ask yourself, was it necessary to put my relative in there in the first place? And then ask yourself, did you let your relative down, or did your relative let you down? And the question is, by putting your relative in there, if you did have a choice, you let your relative down. You sold them out to these harmicuticals. I'm a harmiceutical drug addict because if I try and give up my harms, my tablets, my harms, that I have no choice, I've lost my human rights as to refusing them when I know I'm not a violent person, that they lied on my records. If I try to refuse them, I'm summoned to the hospital, not because I'm mentally ill or having a breakdown, but because I refuse that unnecessary harmiceutical drugs. And they're not medications, they're drugs. Because what they're giving and prescribing to some patients for having a condition, the medications they give them is much worse, causing anxiety attacks, that the doctors tell the patient, that's your condition you've got, that's why you're getting anxiety attacks. When the real issue is the medications they're treating them on is causing the anxiety attacks. And sometimes that bad, patients have been known to kill themselves. Now doctors, put your hands up to this, or should I say whistleblowers, it's about time you whistleblowed on this, because while you're not whistleblowing, you call yourself nurses, how dare you? How dare you call yourself nurses if you're not whistleblowing to protect the very patients that I am trying to protect when I'm under problems of this myself. Problems because I cannot get out the system, because the system has cheated and lied against my name, slandered me to give me the harmiceutical drugs. Put your hands up and start whistleblowing. You call yourself nurses, you should be ashamed. I was a care assistant.